record. We won't bother. We won't bother. You're recording now.
All right, just on my end, people, because last week I forgot to record, and then it was really bad quality. I had to record it from somebody else's recording, and it was really bad audio and visual, so I apologize for that. And it's the Hampstead update again, and Elizabeth Hale.
Yes.
And Andy Devine are with us so far. And Elizabeth's somebody I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, but she comes highly recommended for her work and research. So I'm recording, and we'll see who else joins us. And feel free to kind of just carry on, because I've had a really rough week. I've had a really tough week. Last week's video got taken down, but it's back up. They just had us remove those phone numbers that you recorded at the end, Andy.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And then I put it back up last night, and somebody slapped another privacy complaint on it, but it's completely nonsensical. The timestamp, there's nothing to complain about. So I'll probably just leave it up and talk to YouTube and tell them what's going on, you know? So over to you guys. I'll do some listening.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, what can you do? I mean, they're phoning me up, yeah? So we've got people that phone me up, impersonating police officers, yeah?
Yeah.
And I can't even put the phone number out. Who's phoning up and impersonating police?
Well, I'm going to appeal it with YouTube anyway. I'm going to appeal them and tell them that.
Yeah, that's 100%, because he was impersonating. I mean, the only thing I didn't do, and I will do if they do it again, but we're not live on YouTube. But if I do it again, I'll put the sound so that you can actually hear it, just so that everyone can hear what these idiots are saying. Because and it wasn't Plisco, and it wasn't that AJ Tyler. It was somebody.
The thing that occurred to me is it might have been police or GCHQ.
Well, he stated he was GCHQ, and he also stated that he was a policeman.
So that might be the truth, which is why they got it taken down, if it's true.
Well, why didn't the police come then? Because they said stay in your house. The police will be there in minutes. They're coming right now to extradite you back to the UK.
I know, and it's a week later. Hi, Jesus. Yeah. How are you?
Hi, Jesus.
Anyway, I'll do some listening. I've caught people up. I've had there was loads of privacy complaints from somebody with the initials KI on the recording that Jesus and I did during the week, but that hasn't resulted in the video getting taken down. So I went through all the timestamps, and it was every mention of her name, her daughter's name, her brother-in-law's name. So we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, you take it away, Andy or Elizabeth, and I'll listen.
Well, should we put it onto, do you want to get it onto?
I'll put it on YouTube, definitely. Sorry, Elizabeth, all this technical stuff. Yeah, put it live on YouTube. You can monitor the chat, can't you?
Okay. I shall indeed.
Right.
Aloha, guys. Greetings.
Aloha, how are you?
Elizabeth.
Good evening. How are we doing, Elizabeth? How are we doing?
Good.
How are we doing? Andy, how are we doing?
I'll kill that, my friend. We're live now on YouTube too as well. So
excellent.
Make myself a little bit more comfortable in this giant chair.
So yeah, I mean, I was just waiting. I was going to wait to see. I was just explaining about the CPAS, but I don't want to talk about that on here because there's just some things that's going on. That's in the private, but let's just say that. Good things are coming. Good things are happening. So yeah, I can't really say much more than that. There's just some things that's going to mute that. So there we go. So yes, we are now live on YouTube as well.
Hey, YouTube.
So I don't know whether there's anybody. Well, it's only just going on there. I'm on my. It's still on my secondary account because I'm still blocked on the other one. So obviously. There's only 87 subscribers on this one.
Oh, and I promised to learn how to go live by today, and I didn't do it.
Yes, we didn't get around to doing that, did we?
No, but I will. I'll put it on my to-do list. I had just everything in the house broke down, and I had 5 family turn up for 3 days, and and my daughter's dog, and just total chaos all week. So I didn't even get really planning too much. I got some good feedback from last week.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to just get to know a little bit about Elizabeth. Can we give you the floor and just ask you for your input on the Hampstead case and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, that's kind of a long-winded explanation, though. I kind of want to just give a synopsis so we can actually get right into the heart of things, because my association with this case isn't necessarily relevant. It's just the fact that I know Abraham Christie. That's the only reason why I'm associated with it.
Okay.
It just synchronicity. My mom passed away in 2016, and she passed away before Max Spears did, and I didn't know who Max Spears was until after he died, and I was boarding a plane to Paris. And then it was just kind of interesting that a year later, I'm having a conversation with my sister about my niece's first pregnancy, and she just said very nonchalantly in passing, saying that, well, she doesn't have to worry about her blood type. I'm like, well, what is that supposed to mean? And she goes, well, Mom didn't tell you? And then just a long, awkward pause. She goes, oh, Mom was probably waiting until you were pregnant. I have a very rare blood type to where it's easy for all the women in my family to get pregnant. But keeping a baby is not very easy unless we have the ROGAM shot. And I didn't know anything about this. My mom was a registered nurse. She even worked for the government. So I'm shaking from all this because it's just, it started with one simple conversation to where it prompted me to start digging back into my family genealogy, which genealogy and heraldry and everything was a big thing in our family, especially on my dad's side. So getting back into it wasn't very difficult. But now I was more intrigued of who in my family has this blood type. And the more I kept looking into it, the deeper the rabbit hole. And a whole bunch of snakes and worms started coming out. And it's so bad that I can't even talk to my dad about this.
Wow.
My dad is a high-ranking knight with the Knights of Columbus, and he gets sent all over the world with the Vatican doing charity events.
Wow.
So it's just, I'm a black sheep in the family now.
Yeah, I know that one. And the blood type I presume you're talking about is rhesus negative.
I'm AB negative.
Yeah, I've heard. That's often a marker for MK Ultra. It's not always the case, but it's very often if you've got military background in your family, even at your grandparents' level, if you've got rhesus negative blood, there are other markers. Oh yeah, if your family has any kind of blue blood connection, you know,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Well, that's why I claimed my title. I'm not just calling myself lady. Because of all of this, sorry, I'm getting extremely anxious talking about this because it's not something that I get on camera and talk about. I've tried to a few times and I think it's backfired. But I just recently, back in April, got my title because I was able to prove my family lineage because I'm blood related to, he's my 26th grandfather, Roger D. Hales, who was the coroner to King Edward II. His daughter, Alice D. Hales, married Bartholomew, Prince of Wales. So my family does have royalty, and we were entitled, and I have to go back because I can't remember the name, but we did have the Kent estate. We did have a family member who was the Duke of Kent. So that's why I was able to claim my title, because I own like 1 square foot of the Kent property.
Okay, and the other marker, and please stop me if it's too difficult for you to talk about. The other marker is Freemasonry and secret societies.
Yes.
Yeah, so it seems to tick every box. And
I can tick every box. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had an epiphany this week, and I had to call Abe Christie and talk to him. Sorry. I went to a private school for 8 years.
Yep.
And I was special, but I didn't understand what it was with my family and with that school, why I was treated so differently. And then it just dawned on me. And I told him, Abe Christie, and he goes, yeah, it's no different than Christ Church. Every Wednesday we always had mass. I was part of a program called Rainbows, where it was me and a small handful of kids. We always went on the other side of the property for like 2 hours, like towards the end of the day. And it was because we were, and this is where now as an adult, I'm realizing, I'm like, wait, there's more kids. There should have been more kids in us in that program. And it was a divorce program. Like any kid who was going through divorce,
My
we
daughter,
were in that.
they put my daughter in that.
But I wasn't, there was a class, I was in a class of 30 kids for 8 years, the same 30 kids. And it was only me and one other kid in that class. And then there was one kid, pretty much 1 or 2 kids per grade that was in there. So now I'm realizing I was protected because I didn't know how to shut up. They didn't touch me because I was always talking. And that's when I was at home. I was constantly getting beat. I was getting slapped across the face, getting sent to my room. I wasn't allowed to interact with anybody because I didn't know how to shut up.
Wow. Wow. That's triggered me. My daughter was in that program. Wow. And I was just told it was for children of divorced parents or whatever, you know. So
well, I just came to this realization this week, and I'm trying my best to heal right now, but there's other factors that's going on in my life right now that I'm being heavily triggered.
Yeah. Okay, that's huge. Thanks for sharing that.
Angela, I was just about to say to Elizabeth, it's spiritual warfare, isn't it?
It is.
Spiritual warfare. That's what it is. We're all under that right now.
I keep having these reoccurring dreams. I call Papa Hemp. It's just easier to just refer him to that. But I've been talking to him about a reoccurring dream that I've been having every single night, and even last night I had it. But there was a change of events, which is why I even got on this call. I'm going to be honest with you, Angie. I was not comfortable getting on this call with you, but I had this dream again. I'm sorry, I'm getting really worked up just even wanting to talk about this. The dream is always the same thing. It's always on this like theme park, but I don't know if you guys have ever been to Florida, but this place looks like river country. It looks like something that's Disney, but it's like separate, like it's its own little island, but you have to get there by a body of water. And the premises of the dream is I'm either, because it's weird, I'm always naked, and I'm with a group of people, and the rules are that you can't go inside any building. But I always break this rule, and I always go into the auditorium, which is where I see Gabriel and Alicia, because they're like in this balcony, and they've helped me get through to the back area. By the time I'm in the building, let me backtrack, I've always managed to find clothes, because my first priority is to find clothes. And when I always end up in the dream, I'm always on like different areas. Like I could draw up this map of this place. But this building, like this like movie theater, like auditorium place, is apparently where sacrifices are being done, like murdering. I haven't seen it, but there's just something about this place where I'm like, I want to get there, but I always end up in the basement, and it's always like a bunch of machinery. I can't describe the machinery. It just looks like something that you would see like in a factory, or like heavy plumbing or something. Last night's dream actually ended up down there, but there was a flood. Like a whole bunch of water came through, and that's how I woke up.
Okay. Okay. I'm happy to resolve off camera if there's anything I can do to reassure you. I appreciate you coming on. I don't know if my name triggers you or gossip about me or whatever, but I'm happy to resolve it off camera at any time if you want to do that. But I just want to acknowledge your coming on anyway. That's fantastic. And the dream thing, I wanted to ask you how Max Spears tied into it. He died on my sister's birthday, and I believe my sister was murdered in the May, and Max died in the July. I believe my sister was murdered, poisoned. But the dream thing, I've found a lot of intense dreaming lately, and real vivid dreaming. I think it's almost visions. I think it goes beyond dreams. I think it's kind of visionary stuff. I've found that my grandchildren have visited me in dreams, and it's been so amazingly real. I've woken up just full of the emotions of being with them, and you know, the whole, I think there's more to it. It says, I don't know if you're believing, you know, I don't know if you're a believer, but it says in the word that in the last days, God will pour his spirit out on all people. And it says your young men will dream dreams and see visions, and your sons and daughters will prophesy, and so on, like that, you know. So that's intense. The kind of wake up thing you're going through is like unfolding in front of your eyes. Am I right?
But I agree with you, and I wish I could say that this is something that's new for me.
Yeah.
But I've had dreams, and I've actually had to turn it off, because it's when I was younger, and I still have strong memories of this. This is why I talk about it, is having dreamt something, and then the very next day it happening.
Yeah. That's...
I had to be removed from school. I think I was in first or second grade, because this was like my first memory of having a panic attack. So I had a dream the night before that I had an alien encounter, which is, it's nothing unusual for me to have dreams about UFOs or alien encounters and stuff like that, especially from where I'm from. But in this particular dream, it was different. This dream, I didn't realize I was dreaming until I woke up, which is what set even more of a panic. And then let me tell you the dream. Okay, so in the dream, I'm on the playground. I'm a child, like first or second grade, and we're playing tag or something. And I remember running up to the slide. And as soon as I got to the slide, all of my classmates went running straight to the fence, which is where the parking lot is. And they're all pointing to the sky. And there's like this trash can looking thing just hovering right above the church, just chilling there. And all of a sudden it lands in the parking lot, and these beings come out, and they grab my attention with light, and I fall to the it's like a platform where the stair or where the slide is. I fall to the ground on that, and then I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm just, because I'm so scared, I'm like paralyzed, and I don't go back to sleep until it's time for me to wake up to go to school, and they turn the lights on and, you know, start my day. And then like clockwork, I go out there for recess, and I remember like deja vu looking down at my feet while I was running up the stairs of the slide, and I immediately froze, and I had this sense of fear, like, don't move. And all of a sudden, I see all of my friends start running to the to the fence. I curl up in a ball, and I start crying and screaming. It took adults to pick me up and move. What happened was there was somebody who came to visit. I don't know. I don't remember who was a visit, but it caused an excitement, and they saw a car pulling up. But because it triggered that dream, I refused to move, and they called my parents, and I got in so much trouble for causing a scene.
Wow. Because it's bizarre that you had the dream of it being a UFO and an alien, but it manifests like a dignitary coming to the school and the kids getting excited about it. That's I used to wake up a lot. I was being drugged for a lot of my early childhood in pregnancy, in experiments, and I didn't know, but I used to wake up in the mornings, and it sounds crazy, but like staring out the window and believing I had been flying, you know, just believing, you know, and I know they did experiments with remote viewing and astral travel and all that kind of stuff, but it was haunting. It was like, I didn't think I was, like, I didn't even say it. I may have said it to a sister, but like, it was like I'd been flying. I was convinced of it, you know, but the kind of drugs they were using on us, like LSD and scopolamine and rape drugs, memory wipe drugs, on some level you could be hallucinating, but on other levels, the technology that exists, who knows what's real. I didn't expect this to go this way today, but I was watching a thing about cloning centers, you know. And I remember Dolly the sheep being cloned in the 70s. And
it was actually mentioned not until the 90s. And I don't mean to cut you off on that, but it's significant about Dolly because I remember being, I don't know what age, I was a child, and I was at my parents' friend's coffee shop, and it was all over the news. And that was the big topic of conversation, to the point where it came up a few times between a personal conversation of my father and I of whether or not I should sell my eggs.
Wow.
And my dad was the one that was telling me, don't do it, don't do it.
No, because if you're a bloodliner, then obviously your eggs are going to be sought after. And the way
I was offered $50,000 per fertilized egg.
Absolutely. It's the same as that crazy Jeffrey Epstein shit where he wanted baby making colonies where he would fertilize every woman to create a super race, you know, this kind of crazy.
That is the Lebensborn project that they were finishing. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. Yeah.
So 250,000 Rh positive babies were born, and the propaganda was that this is the true Aryan race. But what's interesting that Hitler's definition of an Aryan race has all the weakest genes. There is no such thing as a superior blood race. If you want to say there is, then it has to be the original blood, which is Rh negative, which comes from this earth. They're not alien. However, when you're looking back at the lineage, because the Bible is just one big genealogy. It just shows you a family tree. And it shows you exactly where the fallen angels broke into the bloodline. They did it through Adam and Eve's bloodline, then they had the deluge. And then that's where the break from, because Noah was the last of Adam and Eve's bloodline. He was the only one that survived. Everything else was actually of other creations, which in the Bible, it does say in Genesis that Adam and Eve were cast to the city, meaning that there were other beings. That we as humans, Rh negative was the first. Rh positive is humans created by humans. So look at it as wolves and huskies. Huskies still have the wolf genes. It's just that they've been tampered with so much that they don't have their original instincts.
Do you believe, I hope you guys are not bored. Are you guys okay?
I'm all ears.
Do you believe the serpent seed theory that Eve was, that it's a very interesting theory put forward by Zen Garcia, and some people believe it and some don't, but it makes a lot of sense to me, that the fall was not just eating an apple.
It was having sex with the serpent,
with Satan, and
actually that makes sense, because then if he sodomized Adam, then that would have put shame in both of them, because for them to run away from God, they had opened the Kundalini, because that's also looking at the taking away of innocence. And I don't support teachers teaching kids about sex, because when you hit puberty, your mind automatically starts opening up that curiosity, but you're afraid. You're like, I don't know, it's different, it's unusual, this is not the perspective of how I see the world. And the union of Adam and Eve was probably very different because it's sacred sexuality. But then once you have that desecration and that perversion, that opens up a whole different perception.
Which is what's manifesting now. But just to complete that thought for people that aren't familiar with the serpent seed theory, and I'll get in trouble with some of my Christian friends who say it's heresy, but just to complete it, the theory is that Satan had sex with Eve. That was the seduction, that was the fall. And then Adam, they say, some of them say that was only when they manifested genitalia. Until then, they were light beings. They were, they were eternal beings, and they maybe didn't even have genitalia. But when Eve fell, and maybe, as you say, I'd never heard that, but maybe Adam was also raped by Satan. They both were aware of their sexuality, and then Adam had sex with Eve. And the theory is that Eve gave birth to twins, Cain and Abel, and Cain was the child of Satan. And my father was a dog whisperer and a horse breeder, and I've seen this in litters of puppies. It sounds fantastical, and it has been recorded in human beings too, where a woman has had sex with two men, and she might have a black child and a white child, for instance. And I've seen it with puppies where you'll have an Alsatian cross. If there's been an accident with a bitch in heat, you might have some Alsatian puppies and some pedigree puppies that were intended to be the sire of the litter. So it's not beyond the bounds of possibility at all. And it makes sense about the fallen, the Canaanite people. And I even heard somebody saying Cain and Abel cannibal, you know, because
see that
Abel.
sorry.
Carry on.
I'm sorry. It's just because there's a lot of misinformation on just what you're saying right there.
Okay, go ahead.
Abel never had any children. Cain killed him before he ever had offspring.
Yeah.
Cain was cast out to wander. He was the nomad, and through his bloodline, and this is the very interesting part. He didn't create the Canaanites. It was Seth's bloodline that created the Canaanites.
All right.
And he also created the Raphaites. Now, the Raphaites were the giants. Everybody wants to talk about the Nephilim, but the Nephilim was just one, like, country and a nation of giants. And what had happened was through, I don't know, through these other beings, and this is where it's really confusing because there are a lot of books that are missing out of the Bible, and the Bible picked and choose from different places, is that Adam and Eve was not the only beings on this planet, but we were confounded in the safety of this garden. And as soon as we broke God's trust, God's like, okay, now that you know the difference between right and wrong, which is the simplest terms that they're describing to us, I think this is my only comprehension, is they lost their innocence. Because of that whole perversion of sex, they, like you predicting, is that it could be the awareness of your genitalia. They had to be basically like kids thrown out of the nest. They're like, okay, I can't take care of you anymore because now you're big kids. You got to be out on your own. You can do whatever you want now. I'm sorry. That's my only comprehension of what God had to do. Not necessarily of, I don't want you anymore. It's just more like, there's nothing I can do. You made your bed. You have to lie in it.
Yeah, and then the second Adam was Jesus, because when God felt sorry for them and everything that was manifesting, like, you know, hybrids and horrors and giants and humanity totally corrupted, I think that's when God said, well, there is something I can do. I'll send my son as the second Adam, and he will purchase back your innocence for you if you connect.
That's how I comprehend it too, because Jesus was AB negative. He was part of the bloodline of David, which is through the bloodline of because Ham's bloodline is trying to take over. I'm already losing the names. I didn't have my notes in front of me. But there's more than one son of Noah's bloodline, but there's only two that's present. And it's interesting that, and let's say for humor's sake, that the Virgin Mary did happen. So if she was born without the seed of Joseph, then it would still be in fact that Jesus is the bloodline of David, because both Joseph and Mary is the bloodline. I have a hard time trying to believe that an angel came to Mary and said this, because that is the very principle that God said that there was a galactic or the universal agreement that these beings aren't supposed to interact with us in that way. But yet Angel Gabriel or Michael came to her and said, hey, the Holy Spirit's going to conceive in you. That's contradictory. That's being a little bit of a hypocrite, don't you think?
I've seen angels. I've seen one angel, and I've been touched by angels. I believe in that. I do believe they manifest sometimes. And I know Lucifer manifested as an angel of light. So we have to be really careful. If we interact with angels, we have to be really careful that they're not fallen angels.
But how do you know the difference? Because fallen angels is an angel.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I never prayed to angels. I don't believe in this whole movement of angel cards and speaking direct to your angels. If I ever ask for angelic intervention, I ask God and I ask him to dispatch. And that way I feel like there's a filter. I ask God to dispatch his angels. And by their fruits, you'll know them. If a fallen angel is saying to, say, a Hollywood star, I'll make you famous, just worship my boss or whatever. I mean, I'm simplifying it there, but by their fruits, you'll know them. If they're saying something that lines up with the word and that manifests powerfully in line with the word, the chances are that's one of the good guys, you know, to simplify it.
I think that makes sense. I guess the only way I can resonate it with is sexuality and then that of platonic, because I didn't actually develop my sexuality until I was 17, and I was even resisting then. Because I knew what it felt like to be a child, and I just wanted to keep that innocence as long as possible, but I knew I had to grow up. And this whole involvement of being an advocate to SRA victims is for that very reason, because they were robbed of their childhood very young, and it's so common now for someone who says, well, I grew up really early. Like, I just became an adult very young. That's not something to brag about. And I'm not saying to be ashamed of it, but I think you should be angry. I think you should demand your childhood.
Yeah, you can't pay that back. No compensation gives you back your childhood. No compensation gives you back your innocence. It's stolen. The only thing I can say about that, having been abused from as early as I can remember, is that because of dissociation, and I wonder what Abe, I don't know if Papa Hampstead listening, but I wonder what his opinion is on how dissociative Gabriel and Lisa are or were, because the dissociation actually helps in childhood. Because on the one hand, I was being abused from, I would say, from infancy, but on the other hand, on my conscious mind, I didn't lose my virginity consciously until I was 19, and I was very prudish, and I want to wait, and I don't want to be like the girls at school, you know. So it was like this dual thing going on. I thought I was this virgin, and yet I'd been brutalized from early childhood. So I just wonder, I know that Papa Hemp says that the diet the children were on and the hemp was helping them deprogram, which would take away the dissociation. But I remember a Radio 4, Melanie Abbott, BBC Radio 4 interviewer saying to me, how can it possibly be true? The children told it with no emotion, just matter of fact. But
that's why.
That's dissociation.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, because I can tell you, sorry, I had to take a smoke. I just got passion on this. I can talk about my life story to you, the dirty details, and I haven't even gotten into it, as though I'm telling a movie. And I've explained this to people. I'm like, well, if it's true, then why don't you have any emotion? I'm like, you don't understand. If I had a family member who lived with it like a sibling, you don't want to see that emotion. That's the reason why you dissociate, because it is so unreal. It is so much easier to play it back as a memory than it is to feel that memory.
Sometimes you feel like you would die if you feel it. Like I had a woman that offered me some online kind of therapy, and she would do Indian singing and drumming and stuff. It was whatever. She was a lovely person, and she offered me some help, and she kind of tapped into something that I couldn't verbalize. And after I finished the hour and a half with her, I threw up for 40 minutes straight, and then I just fell asleep for 3 hours. It was like, they say you've got cellular memories in your body that your mind can't necessarily verbalize. But the only other time I remember that violent reaction was Nina Valentine filmed a ritual sacrifice site in a forest. She had found an altar and the pentagrams and the whole thing, and she filmed it. And as I watched it, it triggered memories, and I just started vomiting. And I would probably not go on camera and say, oh, look, I'm in the presence of a memory. Look at me vomiting, you know. Most of the time I sound normal, just like you, just talking like, yeah, this and this and this happened, you know. But it's afterwards or before that you go into PTSD or dissociation or something, you know. So,
you know, what's interesting is excuse me, because I have finished, but it took me 3 to 4 years to finish listening to the children's testimony. I didn't even want to get involved in this. So let's backtrack, because the original question was how am I connected to all of this? So really, it all started when I was in Punta Cana, it's Dominican Republic. I was staying and living and working at a French resort. So I'm spend all day, most of the day alone in my, it's the costuming shop. It's in the theater. And I'm having to prepare because I'm the one that's responsible for all of the entertainment. So if Chief Village comes to me and they say, hey, we want to do this show. I have to put the costumes together. So I spend most of my day alone sewing. So it's easy for me to put my headphones on. I was listening to audiobooks through YouTube. And YouTube kept suggesting to me this video, Papa Eats Babies. And all I did was see the thumbnail and of these two children. And and it had like over 1 million views. And because of that title, I'm like, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to watch this. I don't want to be put on some type of recommendation that's going to keep sending me sick stuff. Because like, I'm not interested. I didn't even want to humor the idea. But this video really wanted to be watched, and lo and behold, it started playing one day when I had the phone in my pocket and I was busy doing something else, so I couldn't stop it. And I knew immediately what video it was because I kept hearing this kid say, Papa, Papa, Papa. And I'm like, God dang it. I was so angry that this video was finally playing. But when it opened and I looked at it, I'm like, just the body language of the children made me stop and go, hold up, what am I watching? But I couldn't finish it. I ended up having to take it in doses, and through synchronicity of my own life, it kept coming back full circle. Like this case needed my attention. And when I had moved back to New York, which was not my plans, it was just synchronicity. I ended up back up in New York in 2017. And I'm having a conversation with my sister about my blood type. I created an Instagram account to just share information that I'm coming across and what I'm finding and learning, because this is just too surreal, and I need an outlet. Just put it out there. And that's how Abe Christie found me. And I didn't know who I was talking to, and he kept sending me stuff, and I kept talking to him. And it wasn't until last year that he was like, do you know who I am? I'm like, you're Papa Hemp. He goes, do you know who I am? And that's when it went poof, and everything just started to reveal itself to me. Wow. Max Spears became into my and so you said that he died in July. My mom died in November, but I didn't know he died until I was boarding a plane in November. That's when I heard the news, and it was just some nonchalant news about some conspiracy theorist who died on his couch in Poland. That's all I knew. But the reason why I remembered that was because it said that he threw up black goo. Then as I said, I'm back in New York, living in New York, and I'm researching into my blood type because there's just something weird about World War II and their blood experiments. Like the Rockefeller Institute was funding all of this. And I'm wondering, like, what is up with AB negative women? Like, they're not telling us. And I find on YouTube, Max Spears is based with the Barge with Miles Johnson, and he's talking about, and he's very brief, he's talking about the blood groups. And so I go on this like obsessive stalker trying to find Max Spears, because I'm like, this is the only man in the whole universe who actually can answer my questions. I had like this gravitation, like I have to talk to him. So I found Sarah Adams, I found his mom, only to discover that he died. And when I found out he was the one I heard about in the airplane, I shit you not, I had like this existential crisis. I was like depressed for a week. I thought like I lost a family member. Like he was the only person I thought in the world that I could be able to ask these questions.
His death affected a lot of people like that. He had asked, he and I were both on the Basis series, and he had been messaging me, and he wanted me to interview him. And he wanted me to interview him, and he had two subjects he wanted to cover. One was addiction, which was something he wrestled with and I'd had issues with, and so many survivors have issues with addiction. And the other thing he wanted to address, which is he somewhere is so happy at what we're doing, particularly Jesus at the moment. He wanted to address the pornography distribution worldwide. And he'd messaged me saying, Angie, you've got no idea how deep this goes. And it's connected to the Hampstead case. And it's connected to names online that you're familiar with that are huge in the truth community. And I was getting so badly trolled over the Hampstead case. They were putting it out that I was a charity scammer, and I had run a charity for a Kenyan orphanage for a couple of years. So I was spending a week transcribing 7 years of correspondence and accounts to clear my name. With hindsight, I wish I'd told the trolls to fuck off, you know. But at that point, I felt this compulsion to clear my name. So I put him off. I just said, Max, I want to do the interview. I swear, just let me finish this project that I'm working on. And then he died. You know, it was, you know, and he'd named names. He'd named George Michael. He'd even named Ricky Gervais. And he talked about how deep this goes. And I suspect even, I've spoken to SRA survivors who have been pulled back into pornography, adult pornography, where they would break free and they'd get safe housing and they'd start a recovery and healing journey, but then they'd just get taken in the night and taken and put back in a porn movie and like drugged and offered drugs. They might even take them willingly because by then they had a habit. And then they'd like contact me again and say they got me again.
Sounds like Spielberg's daughter, or both his children. He's got 2 children in the porn industry.
Wow, yeah, that's right, because one of them proudly announced it, didn't she?
Well, the youngest one is adopted, which is a lot of controversy because what you just described, it's interesting that when she came out about that and then saying that, you know, her parents support it, but then it was her parents' friends who were saying, no, they would be ashamed. But then she turns around and gets arrested. Was it Louisiana? It was in the South for domestic violence, for beating up her older boyfriend. The guy's like 20 years older than her. He's significantly older than her. She's an adult now, but think about it. Like he was with her before she was an adult, and she finally snapped and went off on him. But she's the one that got arrested.
For sure.
I don't support domestic violence at all, and I certainly don't support women hitting men. But in this case, for her to be arrested with the synchronicity, I think there needs to be a further investigation other than just that isolated event.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the children of Hollywood, like Sage Stone, there's been so many Hollywood children died in mysterious circumstances, like John Travolta's son Jet and Sage Stallone, that was his name, Sage Stallone. He died in mysterious circumstances. A lot of these kids have probably grown up with childhoods that would blow most people's minds, that would absolutely blow, you know. But I think the work that Terry Joyce was doing as well, she was tracking pornography distribution through huge truth platforms. She was just, you know, that she found a lot of stuff associated with Revolution Radio and different platforms. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to share something with you about that. I tried to share this with Terry on record and it didn't go through.
Okay.
So since we're live on Zoom and YouTube, I'm going to try to say this. I worked at the Universal theme parks. Snapchat, I don't know if it still is because I'm not there, but the actors, and even though you're just somebody in a costume, it's so funny. It's like the higher you up, the more aware you have to be nice to the crew. But these people will send dick pics to teenagers, knowing they're teenagers, but then when it comes back to bite them on the ass, well, I didn't know, she didn't tell me. And then when they do that, sweep it under the rug by firing them, and then the only way you hear about it is if you're in the local area, because it's only in the local news. They don't want that shit getting out because that's going to affect ticket sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the porn thing is just the child porn and snuff. I don't know if you've been following Jesus's research, but the child porn and snuff was just one of the first things that jumped out at us, wasn't it, Jesus? With the Yeah.
That was all through the where we started, Elizabeth, Lighthouse Media. That's basically where it took off, because we, as you know, as many people know, or they should know, is media companies have more rights than the average company, so they can get away with things and do a lot of things through the back door. And you know yourself, and it might be the same in America, just like the BBC, companies where nobody else is privy to that information inside that company.
Jesus, you bring up a good point, because I wanted to be in the union. I wanted to be in the union real bad, but the only way you can get in the union is if you work union jobs. Well, how do you work union jobs? You have to be in the union. Well, how do you get in the union? You got to join the union. Well, it costs a lot of money to join a union, and it doesn't guarantee you work. So how do you get in the union? You get the union to get you in. You know what I did? I got Nickelodeon to get me a union card. Not only did they handed me a union card, they handed me a passport like it was nothing. So you tell me that yeah, it's all true.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Angela. In America, they've got that place called Delaware, where the majority of people who are millionaires, billionaires, who are getting hundreds of thousands of pounds a month or maybe even a year, for an example. If you're in that club, obviously you're in there where you can create or be in a company, and they're creating up dormant companies. And like, we're on this point where we're at already, where charities are used to launder money through dormant companies. And these people, it don't matter if they're director, they're a secretary, these people are given these powers through people in these companies to abuse. So obviously you could start up a studio, a photography thing, for an example, and these people are laundering money through the back door, and they're using children as well. And obviously,
you talk about Delaware?
Yeah, no, this is I'm just saying, this is an example, like Soho House.
Yeah, because Delaware, the state of Delaware is a tax haven. It's like the U.S. of Switzerland.
Yeah.
It's their banking systems, and I just realized this because I had just signed a contract. I'm not going to name the company, but I just signed a contract with a company who's based in LA, but they do their taxes in Delaware. Isn't that a little weird?
Some of them companies, they pay $50 to $100 where their information's privated, it's private. So somebody inside that foundation or inside that company is only privy to that information unless it's a higher authority. You understand where I'm coming from? So they can launder money, they can transfer money, and obviously, what does laundering money and transferring money in illegal activities like with postcode, for an example, what does that all fall under?
Ow. Sorry, I got it.
Just to interject, Elizabeth, have you got a YouTube channel? Someone's asked.
Yes, I do. Yes. Ow. Sorry. I'm sitting on my feet.
Summary. She's on there. Just ask the question if you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel.
Can we share it in the description box after we finished here?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah, actually, I couldn't find it when I searched it, because Abraham asked me to find it, and I couldn't find it. I could find you on Twitter, but I couldn't find your YouTube channel. So maybe you could send a link of your.
What being shadowed?
Yeah,
I'm being shadow banned because my most recent video is on Meghan Markle, and every time I try to talk, because this is the second video I've tried to talk about this subject, and it's not getting any views. Whereas I've gotten over 1,000 views on one video, and I'm like, okay, I'm being shadow banned right now.
Yeah, for sure, because I searched. Now my technology is probably restricted too. There's certain people they try not to let me connect with. It's very bizarre. So if it's somebody that's going to help join some dots, I can search them all I like and I won't find them.
Angie, can I just say as well, before you say anything, to the people who are watching, right, on YouTube, can you please please share and spread the message. Absolutely. Right? We're doing this every Sunday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? So please please subscribe, and please share.
Yeah, so I think we've done 50 minutes, and I think I'd love you to come back next week, Elizabeth, if you're able. We've only just touched the surface of a few things here.
Yeah.
Just gonna say as well, while you're here, Elizabeth, because you might not know some of the stuff which is going on, some of the stuff which is also which we have all unravelled and what we've come across, like through the point of how we've got to where we are at now, for example. And basically where we've got to at now is a big step, right? Because for me, how I come into it, some of the other people who were already involved in it, I started with the companies. And this is where it starts, with the companies, and how we've got to the snuff movies, how we've got to the BBC, how we've got to the New York Times, and all these little indications like 788790 Finchley Road, Wayfair, for example, Barbara Kahan, and that's another person who I don't know if you're familiar with. This is what
I'm familiar with her.
Yeah, well,
Papa Hemp was the one me to come on because I can explain to you her connection, why she is the way she is, not to defend, but when somebody hears her name, they're like, who's that? Like, relevance did it have? And I've even got people turning off because when you hear the word East Finchley Road or her name, they're like, I don't care. Now this is getting too complicated. But it's not, actually, because with the bloodline, Kahan last name is a Babylonian high priest's name. So that last name alone shows you that, oh, she's in it deep, and her whole family bloodline has been in it for generations. She was born into it, and she's just carrying down the line.
Wow.
Just about to say to you as well, and this is where, and it's obviously she used to be a social worker, and this is up and down the country. Remember, there's the Canada connection as well, and the Israel connection as well, and then a previous family where is it a father was? Yeah.
The Israeli connection right there just puts it right in the proof. The pudding is that when the Israel sorry, I'm stumbling on my words right now because I'm getting anxious. The high priests of Israel, the Jewish priests of Jerusalem, when they were held captive for 80 years by Babylon, do you honestly think when they were released, they continued the same traditions, especially when it was a new generation that was released?
Okay, so they picked up the Luciferian rituals.
Well, you got to think about this with this woman, right? Because this is what people don't understand. This woman had a finger, you know yourself, had her finger in every single pie you can think of, right? And she died, it stated, I did it on the video the other day, was it 2000?
2000.
Yeah.
Stated she'd opened a business in 2006, ended in 2017, I believe, and she died in 2000.
Now think about this, yeah. This woman is she's part of company formation. She's the pioneer of the UK's of setting up money laundering with a blink of an eye. Right? And this is the thing, this is what people don't seem to understand. She had her fingers in every social services in the UK, right? And this is where, because she set all these companies up, right? The people who are part of it, by, it doesn't matter, like I've said, by £1, £10, £100, £1,000, it's still GDP. These people have still contributed to the pot, which is obviously contributing to money laundering and child trafficking and snuff movies, because this is how these little companies are sat in the background, which they look like they're so little, but they're all starting from dormant companies, and we've already proved it. Children's services, media companies, schools, universities, and then we can go through the police, we can go through even if it's delivering food, all of this, yeah, goes through pensions. And you think, yeah, that everybody who's watching, that there's pensions, there's no pensions. The NSPCC, Childline, Internet Watch Foundation, it states it on that video that I did. No pensions, nobody's got no pensions, nobody at all. That's the mad thing about it. They're pulling money out of nowhere, like Finchley Road is the new Soho House. Soho itself states it in them lines before you look at Soho House. But Soho is international. And that's
Let's talk about Soho House, because we all know that Meghan Markle really likes the Soho House. How is it that the Queen gave Harry the title of Sussex when all the shit is going on in Sussex?
Yeah.
Like, that's really ironic, don't you think? And also, he's connected to the whole mental health. So, how many fingers are in the Tavistock in the royal family? We know that the foundation with Kate and William is with mental health. Are they associated? Are they openly associated with Tavistock?
Well, look, right, I did it the other day on my video, right? Travellist's postcode it's there, it states it there. Travellist's postcode is with 788-790 Finchley Road and Barbara Khan. That postcode.
Are you serious?
It's on my channel, it's there.
I didn't see it, I didn't see your channel, but
it's there.
Travellist is connected to the East Finchley?
It's there on my. I did it the other day. It's on my channel. The postcode states it. That postcode is in a blacklisted postcode between two people, 2 angles, 3 angles, 4 angles. When Barbara Kahan is there and 788-790 the road there, the
Are you serious? That's stupid? Are you serious? Like, how is it that simple? Why are they doing that?
And this is where I come with the Wayfair thing. Wayfair is connected to Maxwell, and it's all there on my channel. It's all there. How all these postcodes take you to different places, different things, and they don't add up. Postcodes that don't add up from 2001. People who are making charities and using charities and making a dormant company and taking it into a charity which isn't in their foundation, which is illegal, and an illegal postcode which is blacklisted. You know what I mean? How does that work? Either it's a postcode and it's been struck off, the building's been taken off, yeah, but you're still using the same postcode, or something's either underground. Do you get me? That don't make sense. How can all of these companies, for example, have all these dodgy postcodes, right? The company's house, right, is just sat there being complicit. Do you feel where I'm coming about? And it don't matter if it's the UK, because it's all connected to Panama Papers, offshore banking, offshore havens, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, just like all these islands to do with Richard Branson. These are the kind of things where he goes to. That's why Richard Branson's always saying, oh, I'm going to sue the NHS, for example, because he's got money. It's coming from all these little places like Finchley Road, Soho House, and we're the ones who are giving to these charities, and they aren't doing nothing for these children, and they're all connected to these big, massive shelf and boiler room companies, but no one wants to know. But everyone's happy to keep giving to children, or it isn't, they keep stealing the children, they keep stealing your money. Everyone's becoming poorer, but nobody's seeming to understand that. That's how sad it is. That is how sad it is.
So my dad works in charities. I told you that.
Yeah.
He volunteers. The Catholic Church sends him all over the world, and he photographs them. And he has worked the what was the charity that Prince Harry always does? The Invictus game.
Huh? Oh,
the Invictus game.
Invictus.
Yeah, because I don't know, there's something about the Catholic Church. They're part of it too somehow, because my dad was there to photograph it. Absolutely. But I find it really interesting because you bring up a very good point. You know, and I'm going to use the Vatican as an example, because they're always asking for our money. Like, you go to church every Sunday or every day at that matter, and they're always asking for offerings, because you say that, well, it's supposed to help pay the bills, and it's supposed to help with all these other charities and this, that, and the other. And then my dad's going all over the world for helping certain charities to help raise money. And all I'm thinking is, there is millions upon millions of dollars of history just in the Vatican alone. Why can't they sell that to a museum as a charity and use that money? Not only will it help the economy of the because they do every once in a while, the Vatican will do a tour of their artwork, and then you have to pay extra money to go to see these exhibits. So why don't they just donate the artwork for charity to help feed, I don't know, a country?
I think in the Catholic Church that they're renowned for very small offerings, because they don't practice the principle of tithing. But the ones to watch as well are the evangelical churches, and the black churches are the biggest givers. Certainly in America, they fully grasp the tithes and offerings concept, and they give millions upon millions upon millions. And so
talk about the Baptists, like Southern Baptist churches.
Well, a lot of the, not just Southern Baptists, but like in America, particularly the evangelical thing of 10% of your income up to 30% of your income. And you see people bringing in whoever, Justin Bieber or someone, and then you just get them to tithe, and there's millions coming in. The flow of money is undoubtable. But do you know what? I don't want to go over an hour because people lose their concentration. But I absolutely want to pick up again next week where we left off, because there's so many things we've touched on. The final thought from me is that Gabriel and Elisa were very specific. They really understood, not only are we being filmed, but this is the lady that does the filming. This is the lady that brings the babies, and this person brings the babies too. And this is the lady that translates the movies, translates the pornography. And this is the lady that distributes. The kids had such an amazing grasp of the distribution of pornography. And it will be a regret, forever that I didn't get Max's intake on that, because he definitely had the inside track. But I think we're uncovering it. So I'm so delighted. We've done an hour, And I think if you'll come back next week, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg that we've covered today. Andy, did we miss anything from your end? You can't really talk about, can you show that ID thing again before we go?
Oh, that's just a CPAS. That's just something I'm coming in. That was nothing to do with what this is here. That was just a private
We've
conversation.
gone very broad off of Hampstead, but it all connects.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm here. I was always here for the solution. Yeah, I wanted to protect myself, my son, and everybody else at the same time. So
yeah,
if it's good for me, if it's good for everyone, it's good for me. So basically, what I'm looking at doing is something that because of what's happening right now, especially with this martial law lockdown, and with what I stipulated, you know, this BS with the mask. First comes the mask, then just to program you into accepting the chip and the vaccination. So I need something to protect us, because when that day comes, they're going to come with the authority of the martial law, and they're not going to be interested in no common law. They're not going to be interested in any of that, because they'll be coming through that. And you need to hit them with something that's equal to them than what they understand. And that it was the post office. Post office was the most powerful because they are the ones that employ all the military, and it's the military that has more power than the police. So, you know, if you have the military on your side, if the military understands you 101,
yeah, we need the police and the military really to shape up.
The police need to wake up pretty quick, because I mean they're going to be rounded up and chopped, because they are the ones that are the criminals. They are all bang to rights criminals. They're all the corporations. They're not actually. I mean, not the genuine police. The genuine police, they signed up to do the genuine job and to serve the public, but they didn't realise what they was getting into. But you know, like you say, ignorance is no defence, and it will not defend them. And the Nuremberg Treaty didn't help them from just saying I was just following orders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, I'm trying to help the police. I'm trying to help the police to realise that, you know, look, you know, what the Baron's done has shown you are all criminals. Yeah, every single policeman who is enforcing an act or statute, 100%. I have it as a fact, and I state it as a fact under the penalty of perjury that you are all criminals. Yeah, everyone who's enforcing an act or statute upon a man or woman without their consent, meaning their wet ink signature, which you do not have, so therefore you are, by your own laws, by your own words, you are all criminals, malfeasance in office, and that's 7 to 10 years or even up to life. Yeah. So you know, and it's not their fault, just like it wasn't our fault. We've all been screwed. We've all been deceived too, but the thing is, we don't have to stay deceived. So yeah, I mean, basically, I'm here to try and help. That's all I am.
That's what Papa is about as well.
Can I just say something before we go? Right, for next, let's leave everybody on a knife edge, right? So I've already put a bit of information out already, but what does and for the people at home, what word does mama? What country in the world, yeah? How many countries says mama? Who says mama, papa, yeah? Think about it, yeah? There's how many countries that use that reference, right? Mama, papa, yeah? Just remember that, how many countries use that reference, right?
I'm not understanding where you're getting at.
Obviously, the word mama and papa, obviously, why I'm saying that is because the subliminal message which I'm leaving it. Because obviously, right, the countries in the world which say it, they all have the same language mixed together, right? And obviously, from the information what I've found, right, that indication there, and I'll show you after this live, because you'll be like, oh no. And that's going to be for next week. Because the information which it states, and this isn't to do with Abraham. Let's get right. This isn't to do with Abraham. This started from Lighthouse Media, and I'm going to leave that on a knife edge. It started from Lighthouse Media, remember?
Okay.
Angie,
yeah.
Can we continue this conversation after the recording? Because I do want to talk to you further.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I think that's it. That's like, we've done an hour, and I think it was absolutely red hot. And I'm grateful for everybody listening. Please like, subscribe, share. Andy, you upload it on your channel. Jesus, you upload it on Twitter. You're welcome to mirror it on your channel as well, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's free, and everybody else is free to apart from you trolls, the obvious. But it's as long as it's put up in the full as it is, there's no problems. It's free to share for everyone.
All right, guys. So tune in same time next week, 3 o'clock on Sunday UK time.
Yeah.
I'll just
Take
stop.
care. Take